Well. That's the nasi kanda on our left, where I usually have my meals. We are now exiting my housing area, headed to Penang, and I shall be taking kind of a shortcut, avoiding the buildings and built-up area and trying to take a more scenic route to Penang, because I like the greenery. Kulim is a small town. It's not as congested like cities tend to be, which is good. Because I dislike congested cities. Though once you get used to a quiet town, then even a small wait at a traffic intersection like this seems like a long wait. Human nature is such, yeah. We're never quite satisfied with what we have. That one keeps reminding oneself that one is lucky to be in a place like this. And hello, and this is me. Hello, and this is me, so to speak. Ooh, shades. Okay, back to the. Alright, and don't worry folks, I'm not holding my camera. It is secured on one of those phone holder thingies, so I don't have to look at it, just assume that it's functioning. And we're driving into an area called Taman Las Vegas, which is like a old residential, low-cost residential area. But to the left of this intersection here, where you can see some cars turning left, is a place with a large eating area, lots of restaurants, and the Yauki restaurant that I regularly post food pictures of, the satay stall, that's my favorite in Kulim, they're all inside there. And then now as we drive on, this is the housing area. Way back in the early 90s or very late 80s, this area was built with view to being a low-cost housing area, and the houses here were like really, really cheap. Seriously, costing, I don't know, about like just about 20,000 ringgit for a house, a small house, nevertheless, just like 2 bedrooms. But now the price has increased. Oh God, so many fold, yeah. Maybe 20-fold, I think. Yep. So this area is no longer a low-cost housing area, but it is still one of the cheaper housing areas in Penang. Oh, sorry, not in Penang, in Kulim. Oh, in Penang, this sort of a place would be outrageously expensive just because the properties here have land, yeah. Even a small house in Penang would set you back in Malaysian money a lot of money. Of course, depending on the location in Penang. I'm driving through this residential area, and you can see there are lots and lots of these road speed bumps put up by the residents, actually, because they're sick and tired of guys like me driving through this area just trying to get a shortcut to access the main road and connecting into Penang. I suppose it's fair. I mean, like, nobody likes to have a lot of traffic in their residential neighborhood. You know, but it's generally just us local Kulim people who know of this route, and I just like to drive through it because there's a lot of greenery here. Yeah, and you'll hear some rattling sounds. That's just like some loose keychain thingy. Oops, not enough space in this road for 2 cars, so that guy has to give way. I am giving as much way as possible. Asshole. Okay, in places like this, it's like a case of who blinks first. Yeah. So that second guy on the red car was an asshole because he just came lunging towards me. And normally, what would happen if one of the vehicles didn't feel confident that they could pass. Sometimes you get drivers who don't quite know the width of their own vehicle, so they're not experienced. Then then he could just slow down, and I'll try to give him even more space. But I was already as comfortable as I could be on my left. Yeah, just giving about 6 or 10 inches of clearance on my left. And he could have passed, as you noticed. All right, now anyway, this is we are on to like a main road. This is like one of those proper roads that connects small towns or small villages in Malaysia. As you can see, the condition of the road is quite good. Yeah. In the peninsular part of Malaysia, the road conditions are generally good. Kind of a legacy from the time when we had British colonialists running the country, and they wanted to have good road communications, probably so that they could move agricultural and mining products better and make more money. After all, they were here to basically make money off the country, not to do public service, so to speak. Of course, they made money under the guise of doing public service, which is quite clever, as all colonists tend to be. But anyway, the mountains in Malaysia, they are nowhere as big as or as high as the Himalayas or stuff like that. But there's a lot of high quality granite available in the mountains, and the granite is really good for making roads. So basically, we have granite available all across the peninsula. So the road builders had a steady, plentiful supply of high quality granite, and they could have proper roads surfaced with granite. So all across the country we have these proper roads, and even small towns are connected with these proper paved roads. Yeah, it's only, I suppose, the estates, the internal estates, like in front of us you can see some trees. Those are oil palms. Yeah, so they have these oil palm estates, and within these private estates they would probably just only make dirt tracks, not proper roads, because the only people who are using them are the estate trucks and stuff that would be tearing up proper roads anyway. So, but we are now driving on public government funded road, and these public roads that I'm driving on, they are toll free. A bit later on we'll be coming across some other road which is a tolled road. Those are like highway systems that were built by private corporations, and so they are allowed to charge a toll. And by the way, along this road, is where a friend of mine found Mr. Brown. Yeah, Mr. Brown. And I think in a little while we'll be approaching the exact area where a friend of mine was driving past and he saw this stray dog just by the roadside. It's not even where these houses were. Yeah, now we're coming to that area. It was like somewhere along this area on the left. It's just like the oil palm plantation. On the right, some like village like houses, probably people rearing chickens and stuff. And I think Brown was somewhere in this location within this area. I'm not sure the exact area, but it was along this stretch of road. So as you can see, there's lots of oil palms all over. Initially in Malaya, as it was then known, around the pre-World War II period, there was lots and lots of rubber plantations that were set up. I believe that original rubber trees originated from Brazil, but the climate here and the climate there is similar. Lots of rain, no real dry season, and so they planted rubber here very successfully. But subsequently, after World War II, they came up with artificial rubber, so they didn't need that much natural rubber, and the price of rubber started falling, and that they started cultivating oil palms. Yeah, so the oil that you get from the palm, the tree is the palm and the oil is the oil. So the tree is the oil palm and the oil that you get is palm oil. So I mean, these are just a play on words, but still one needs to be as accurate as one can be when describing things, doesn't one be? Yeah. So anyway, oil palm was cultivated in large estates and plantations in Malaya. Well, Malaya being the peninsular part of Malaysia, yeah. And then there's a lot of advantages in using palm oil, especially in the food industry. Yeah. Apparently, palm oil is stable at higher temperatures than other forms of oil, so it's excellent for re-cooking things like fried chicken and generally all sorts of food that needs oil. But then when palm oil became too popular, then business interests dictated that other competitors, like people who were producing sunflower oil and stuff, needed to up their ante. But the thing is, you can't convert a sunflower into something else, and the oil was still basically as it was, and sunflower oil doesn't tolerate that high heat and that high long cooking, so it's more fragile than palm oil. So the industry started a campaign of disinformation against palm oil, just to try to drive down the global supply of palm oil. And currently the main point against palm oil is that it is grown in very large plantations, and these plantations are where there used to be forests. So there are many areas of forests in Southeast Asia as a whole, not just Malaysia, which have been cut down and decimated, and then they have started planting the oil palm trees there. So they are saying that if you buy palm oil products, you are supporting the deforestation of lots of virgin jungle, and then along with deforestation comes associated problems like loss of wildlife habitat, loss of habitat for indigenous populations. That's it. And of course the oil palm industry, or the palm oil industry, we're talking about the oil, not the trees. They just want the oil. They're not interested in the trees really. But to get the oil, you need to have the trees. Yeah. Oh wow. So anyway, the palm oil industry fights back against this by trying to promote itself as an sustainable, eco-friendly industry. The truth of the thing probably lies somewhere in between, because all industry is run by people who are seeking to make a profit. So to use a very delicate term, they will bullshit wherever they can, and politicians will climb on the bandwagon and bullshit wherever they can as well. Actually, politicians will just bullshit. They won't even bullshit where they can. They just bullshit all the time because it's in their nature. Yeah, so they need to practice their bullshit craft. So anyway, there are environmental issues caused by palm oil plantations. Oil palm plantations. Here we go again, separating the tree from the oil. The oil palm plantations, and even the rubber plantations. And if you look at aerial or satellite views of Malaysia, you will see lots and lots of areas of jungles that have been cleared. They log the forests for the valuable tropical hardwood. Then they leave the land to rue it. Sometimes they want to start large plantations for these oil palms, and then they'll clear the forest, take all the valuable wood, then plant in the oil palms. So they have a perfect excuse. They say we're starting a plantation, so we had to remove the forest. But don't worry, folks, we'll do this in a very eco-friendly way, and this will be good for everybody in the long term. And then the land goes to waste. Anyway, this is all business. It's it's all business. No businessman, no politician, no government cares about nature or the beauty of things, or the trees, or the forests, or the indigenous people, or even you and me. All they care for is the money and the profits. Yeah. And you and me, the more materialistic we are, the more we are contributing towards all of this. Yeah. Oh well. So anyway, so much for that. And now we are coming out of this old-ish public road, and we are going to get onto a highway, a private highway, which connects basically Kulim, where I live, with Butterworth. Yeah. Well, I took this old road, and now we're meeting that highway system halfway across. That highway was built to connect the port of Butterworth with the high-tech park and industrial estate in Kulim. Again, it wasn't done for the convenience of you and me. It was done for the convenience of the business sector. Here we go, signboards saying this. The green signboards, in case you are driving in Malaysia, whenever you see these signboards with green and arrows, they are pointing towards highway system, what we call a tollway. You have to basically pay a toll to get onto these highway systems. toll rate is, well, it's difficult to say whether it's high or it's low, because it all depends on the country that you are at, what your earning capacity is at, and you know, if you don't want to use these tollways, then you can still access places generally using the non-tollway roads, you know, which aren't too bad. Like, you know, we just drove on one of those. But when you're connecting cities with, you know, the old roads tend to become extremely congested. So many people prefer to use these public tollways, which we call highways. You know, we prefer to use this because they are more convenient, more relaxed to drive, and people are willing to pay for that convenience because the rate is not too high. For example, from Kulim, if I were to be driving to Kuala Lumpur, which is about a distance of 350 kilometers, the tollway charges would amount to around 50 ringgit for me. And 50 ringgit is about, at the current exchange rate, about maybe $12 US. So we're talking about $12 US to drive on a 350 kilometer stretch of decent road. Yeah. The only thing about these so-called decent roads is they tend to become boring when you're driving, yeah? Because there's not much to see except more road and more road and more road. So drivers tend to become bored and complacent, and that leads to, you know, dangerous driving, you know, especially when you have drivers who are like trying to speed on the highway, you know, because I mean, like, you might be alert and you might think you can drive fast, but the other guys on the road might be sleepy, and in an emergency situation they might not be able to react fast enough, and then you will get, you know, crashes. Yeah, so they've got speed limits on these highways. I generally try to observe the speed limits. Like over here right now, there's a speed limit on this area which says 90 kilometers an hour. On the bigger highways, like the ones that connect the main artery highway that, you know, connects the north part of the peninsula to the south part, you know, it starts from the border with Thailand and it goes right down into Singapore. Yeah, that's one main artery that goes down, which we call the north-south highway. On that highway, on most stretches, the limit is speed limit is 110 kilometers an hour. But occasionally you do see idiots speeding along at 180 or, you know, even more, you know. And these are the speed freaks who think that they've got expensive cars, and so they've got good cars that can drive at that speed. But unfortunately, the highway, the roads were not designed for safety at those speeds, and the other cars and trucks and whatever that are on the highway are not ready for, you know, to share the highway with such high speed drivers, so there can be accidents. But somehow the road traffic accident rate in Malaysia, even though I would think it is high, you know, especially during crowded festival seasons, but the road accident rate is not as high as, for example, in Thailand or, you know, some of the neighboring countries where, you know, people don't pay any regard to traffic regulations. The only place where traffic is very much regulated in Asia, or in Southeast Asia at least, is Singapore. Okay, we just cleared one of those, you know, tall booths thing. My car, like most cars, has a little radio frequency ID tag on it, so I don't need to stop and pay manually. There's a scanner that scans my ID and then automatically deducts deducts the toll charges from an e-wallet that I have, so it makes it rather convenient. Yeah. And now we are going to leave the Kulim to Butterworth highway and join the main north-south highway. You see overhead, you can see in the distance there are signboards. There's more blue signboard, which means a normal road. This is what we are at. And then you see a green thingy on the left, on the signboard, which is on the left, along with some kind of a logo. That's the logo for the highway system. Generally, when you see that, you know that you're connecting into the north-south highway system. And if you look carefully ahead, you can see that there is an overhead bridge with cars moving from the right to the left. That's the traffic. On the right is the north, and they are headed to the left, which is towards the south. So coming in from the right, they could have been from the northern part of Malaysia or up to Thailand, and they headed down southwards, and we'll join them for a short distance and then branch off again to go to the to Penang Island. And to get to Penang Island, we'll be taking the Penang Bridge. There are actually two bridges that connect the mainland with Penang. We are taking the first and the older bridge, which was built around in the mid 1980s, and then recently, in the past 5 to 10 years, they built another bridge which is located a bit further south, that connects the mainland to Penang again. And that second bridge, it is actually popularly known as the second bridge, connects the industrial area of Penang with the more southern part of the mainland compared to Butterworth. I don't quite like that bridge, but for some people it's more convenient due to the geography of wherever they might be originating from. Right, now we're going to head straight. If we continue driving straight down, assuming one just keeps to the middle of this road, straight down, all the way down, you're headed to Kuala Lumpur and then to Johor Bahru in Singapore. That's it, straight down. You can stay on the highway all the way, and you'll be able to connect down. Well, at Kuala Lumpur, not straight down. Kuala Lumpur, you'd have to take some intersections, you deviate into another highway. So anyway, you can check out the green signboards and stuff. They're all basically telling you'll be connecting into some highway or some freeway or the other. And now we come in this stretch of road always tends to be congested because traffic is merging from different directions. On our left, traffic is coming in from the Butterworth side, the city part of it, and joining into this highway. And then some of them want to cut further right to go to Kuala Lumpur or further south, whereas guys like me are trying to cut left because we want to head towards Penang. So there's invariably a little bit of congestion here. If anybody driving into these kind of areas, you just need to drive slow, and when you switch lanes, make sure you got your indicators correctly set, and just switch lanes gradually, no sudden turns. And then when you see some guy giving an indicator like that guy in front of me, you don't completely trust them because for some strange reason, Malaysian drivers tend to view their turn indicators as ornamental things. So they might just like to turn on their disco blinking lights, or they might just accidentally have, turned it, or they could have indicated a right turn and then completed their right turn, but the indicator didn't go off. So anyway, rules of the game: don't give your indicators accurately, but don't trust anybody else's indicators. Keep your eye out, and for goodness sake, don't drive too close to the car in front. Always leave a fair bit of space. Check all your side and rear mirrors for traffic and stuff. We are now headed towards the Penang Bridge, and this part of it is quite nice. It was good fun when they first started the Penang Bridge thingy, because it was new and everybody wanted to be on the world's, or is it Southeast Asia's second longest bridge or something. But long and short bridges, they're just bridges. Yeah, to me they're either beautiful or not. Okay, hang on, I'm going to stop this video so that I can take another one, just in case the file gets corrupted.